This is the insider trading saga for the NBA.
The 5 families together in a single indictment is extraordinarily rare.
It's been total chaos ever since the FBI blew the lid off the NBA's gambling scandal. The headlines exploded with words like Mafia ties, and suddenly players, coaches, and fans were all losing their minds. October 23rd, 2025. That date will be remembered forever in basketball history. The moment the arrests hit the news, it felt like a bomb had gone off across the entire sports world. Shock, disbelief, fury, you name it, the emotions were all over the place. Everyone was asking the same question. What does this mean for the game we all live and breathe?
And I'm just ashamed under no circumstance that's at play. And I don't like to sit up here and be hypocritical about certain things. I homeboy gamble, Ernie. Bet it. We've been on teams, we played cards, we played spades, we play. Would give us forums on what and what not to do. One of those things where if somebody asks you if a certain player is playing, you say no. So all these guys knew what was at stake. And I'm just ashamed that they put themselves and put their family.
But the loudest reactions came from inside the NBA itself. When 3 legends, Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith, went at each other live on TV. The tension in that studio could have cut glass. Shaq spoke first, his voice heavy like a man who'd been stabbed in the back by his own people. You could feel how betrayed he was. He didn't sugarcoat a thing, saying flat out that this wasn't some misunderstanding or gray area. Every single player gets trained on gambling rules every year, he said. They know the line. Then Shaq dropped the question that left everyone silent. Why risk everything when you already have it all? That hit deep, but Kenny Smith wasn't having it. He fired back that addiction doesn't care about logic, money, or fame. Kenny said this wasn't about greed. It was about a compulsion that eats people alive. You can't judge what you don't understand, he argued, trying to bring some compassion into the chaos. But Barkley? Oh, he wasn't buying any of it. Chuck came swinging hard, calling it straight-up stupidity. He said, "You can't fix games, period," and couldn't believe millionaire players would throw their entire careers away for what he called pocket change. The back and forth between the 3 wasn't just wild TV. It exposed the massive divide in how people see this scandal. Are these players victims trapped by addiction? Or are they just greedy enough to sell out their sport for a quick payday? Meanwhile, active players and coaches stayed more careful with their words. But you could tell the tension was still thick. Pacers coach Rick Carlisle, who also heads the National Basketball Coaches Association, said it best. "This is a shocking day and a serious situation. And man, everyone watching knew he meant it." The craziest part? These arrests went down just one day after the league held mandatory gambling rule meetings. You couldn't script this if you tried. Coach Rick Carlisle reportedly tried reaching out to Chauncey Billups right after the news broke, but got nothing but silence. Meanwhile, Lakers head coach JJ Redick, still fresh off his playing days, admitted this scandal was the only thing people could talk about inside locker rooms.
$9 million, and you're dealing in certain things. Like how much more do you need?
He continued.
Especially if you know you get caught, you can do jail time, lose your career. Put a bad image on yourself or your family or on the NBA. I agree with you, Chuck. They
have to realize that gambling is an addiction. So the addiction of it is what makes you make illogical decisions. So
teams scrambled to reinforce their anti-gambling policies, handing out reminders and holding emergency talks, but none of that eased the tension. Inside the league offices, the mood flipped overnight, from season-opening hype to full-blown panic. One executive said, "It felt like someone hit a light switch and turned excitement into fear." Another agent confessed he wasn't surprised it was happening, just that they actually got caught. He said, "Gambling's everywhere now. It's part of the culture." Even the Players Association had to jump in with a squeaky clean statement insisting, "The integrity of the game remains our top priority." But they didn't stop there. They reminded everyone that every player deserves due process. You could tell they were walking a razor's edge. Defend their members, but don't look like they're defending corruption. And then came the social media storm. X, formerly Twitter, went ballistic. Fans couldn't believe the Mafia connections being mentioned in reports. Some blasted the NBA for preaching integrity while plastering betting app logos across every broadcast. "This is hypocrisy at its finest," one fan wrote. Others demanded tighter rules, especially on prop bets involving player stats, arguing that the system practically invites temptation. Reddit exploded too. In r/NBA, one top thread with thousands of upvotes asked whether this was just a few bad apples or proof of deep-rooted corruption rotting the league from the inside. Over in r/Bill Simmons, someone joked, "Shut the whole thing down!" But beneath the jokes was real unease. People are genuinely wondering, can fans still trust what they're watching anymore? Even politicians couldn't resist jumping in. Senator Richard Blumenthal called for national guardrails to prevent corruption from spreading to other sports. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, a lifelong Knicks fan, said this scandal shocks the conscience. Representative Paul Tonko called it the inevitable fallout of the unchecked sports betting boom. And the betting giants? DraftKings and FanDuel rushed to do damage control, releasing statements calling the allegations deeply disturbing and promising to tighten integrity monitoring. But critics clapped right back, pointing out how those same companies made billions off the very betting culture, now tearing the league apart. So what's next for the NBA and maybe all of pro sports? Expect massive changes. Commissioner Adam Silver is reportedly pushing harder than ever for strict federal regulation, especially around those dangerous prop bets on player stats. This scandal just blew the doors wide open.
As the FBI director said, there's a man who lost $1.8 million. That means he has a lot of money, so he has an addiction to that. Those fish that they talk about that they were bringing in. So gambling is an addiction which can make you make illogical decisions regardless of your ethnic background, regardless of your physical background, and regardless of your fight.
And now Adam Silver's calls for stricter gambling control are louder than ever. Enforcement's about to get very real. The NBA has already tightened up injury report rules and even started fining teams for trying to slip things past the radar. But this scandal ripped the curtain wide open, exposing major cracks in the league's system. The fact that the NBA cleared a guy the FBI later arrested is beyond embarrassing. It's a total credibility disaster. The biggest issue? Trust. One viral post said it perfectly. If you can bet on these games, why would you even believe they're real? That line hit hard because it's the nightmare scenario for any sport. Once fans start questioning if the game's legit, or just another setup for high rollers and gamblers, the entire foundation of professional basketball starts to shake. This wasn't some quick-hit investigation either. It was a multi-year federal probe. We've seen scandals before, like back in 2007 when referee Tim Donaghy got caught leaking betting info on games he was officiating. The league barely survived that one. But this time, it's way bigger. Because this isn't just one rogue ref. It's players, coaches, ex-staff, and even connected outsiders tangled in a massive web stretching across years. Everyone's asking the same question: how did this happen right under the NBA's nose? And the answer? A perfect storm of greed, silence, and serious tech. The schemes, the Mafia ties, the encrypted chats. It's all part of a digital age scandal that blurred the line between the game and the gamble. To really understand how wild this got, you have to see how the FBI pieced it all together. This wasn't a few people throwing risky bets for fun. This was a sketchy network that ran from late 2022 straight into 2024, and maybe even earlier. The feds dubbed it Operation Nothing But Bet, and honestly, the playbook was disturbingly brilliant. Here's how it worked. Insiders with access to players, coaches, or team staff leaked key info before games, like which players were secretly hurt, who'd sit out, or who'd be playing limited minutes. That intel went straight to the gamblers. They'd place prop bets before the public knew anything. These weren't random guesses, they were guaranteed wins. If you bet the under on a player's points knowing he was injured, that's not luck. That's inside trading with sneakers on.
People refused to pay. These defendants did what organized crime has always done. They used threats, they used intimidation, and they used...
According to court documents, at least 7 NBA games were manipulated by this underground ring. One FBI agent even compared it directly to Wall Street insider trading, saying the operation blurred ethics and greed in a way the league has never seen before. It wasn't just the Lakers, Bucks, or Hornets, Pelicans games that got caught up in the madness. This thing reached way deeper. Even an April 2023 matchup between the Magic and the Cavaliers was rigged. Word leaked that key starters were sitting out, and suddenly someone dropped a massive $11,000 bet on the Cavs. The result? A total blowout. Cleveland crushed Orlando 118-94. That wasn't luck, that was planned. And the deeper investigators dug, the uglier it got. The betting ring wasn't just some loose group of gamblers. It had structure, hierarchy, and code names. People like Eric Spook, Ernest Mars, Fairly Vino Locks, and Shane Hennon Sugar ran the show. These weren't random street hustlers either. They coordinated bets, managed insiders, and handled the dirty money, washing it clean through Cash App, wire transfers, and even straight-up envelopes of cash. The wildest part? They didn't even focus on game outcomes. They targeted prop bets. Those tiny wagers on single-player stats like, will player X score over 20.5 points? Prop bets have exploded in popularity ever since sports betting went legal nationwide. In just the first 8 months of 2025, Americans dropped over $100 billion on them. And this crew milked that system dry, turning harmless fan fun into a billion-dollar manipulation machine. But here's where things get darker. San Angeles warned this wasn't just a betting scandal. This was about the NBA's own dangerous relationship with the gambling world. Critics had been warning for years that this would happen. Back in 2024, former Senator Bill Bradley predicted exactly this kind of fallout, saying that the league's cozy partnerships with betting giants like DraftKings and FanDuel would inevitably open the door to corruption. Now, that warning looks prophetic. Betting ads flood every NBA broadcast, gambling sponsors are everywhere, and the league profits off it, all while pretending it's about fan engagement. The hypocrisy? Off the charts. Commissioner Adam Silver has long defended legalized sports betting, saying it helps detect fraud by monitoring suspicious betting spikes. And in a twist straight out of a movie, that's actually how the FBI cracked the case. It was those strange, out-of-nowhere prop bet surges that tipped off the feds and sparked the investigation that blew this scandal wide open.
Let's not, mince words. This is the insider trading saga for the NBA. That's what this is.
Secretly reads cards using a hidden camera, special contact lenses or eyeglasses that could read pre-marked cards, and an X-ray table that could read cards face down.
But the second half of the operation, that's where things turned downright cinematic. The FBI called it Operation Royal Flush. And it sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood scandal thriller. Picture this: underground poker rings running out of Manhattan, the Hamptons, Las Vegas, and Miami, with 31 people indicted. The setup was both genius and evil. Wealthy guests were invited to exclusive celebrity poker nights, believing they were rubbing shoulders with former NBA stars. Players like Billups and Jones gave those games an air of total legitimacy. But the whole thing, a complete trap. Everyone else at the table, the dealers, the random players, even the staff, were part of the con. And the tech? Unbelievable. Prosecutors revealed that the card shuffling machines had been secretly modified to scan every card mid-shuffle, predict who'd get the best hand, and send that info off-site to an accomplice. It was digital cheating at the highest level, wrapped in glitz, luxury, and pure deception. The poker setup these guys built was straight out of a spy movie, no exaggeration. The chip trays had hidden cameras built inside, reading every card in real time. But it gets even crazier. Players in on the scam wore special contact lenses and glasses that could read cards marked with invisible ink, and those so-called luxury poker tables. They had X-ray scanners built right into them, literally letting the crew see through cards lying face down. Prosecutors even showed photos of the setup during a press conference, and people couldn't believe what they were looking at. It was straight-up espionage tech being used to rob millionaires blind. Here's how it all went down. The rigged shuffling machine scanned every deck mid-game and sent that data to an off-site operator. That operator would then relay the info by phone to a quarterback sitting at the table who used tiny gestures, like scratching his chin or tapping a chip, to signal the crew. Within minutes, they were draining rich players dry without anyone realizing what was happening. One victim lost a staggering $1.8 million in a single night. By the time the FBI got involved, total losses had already blown past $7 million. And when victims couldn't pay up, that's when things turned dark. real dark. That's when the Mafia muscle showed up to collect. This wasn't just a high-tech gambling empire. It was a sketchy network powered by organized scandal itself. Federal investigators said this case was one of the wildest operations they had ever seen. The Mafia's role wasn't some minor footnote. It was the engine behind the entire scheme. The Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese families weren't bystanders. They were full-blown partners in the hustle. These families already controlled New York's underground poker world, so when the rigged tables appeared, they jumped in instantly, setting up venues, taking massive cuts, and using fear, intimidation, and violence to keep everyone in line.
Gambling addiction. This ain't got nothing to do with addiction. These dudes are stupid. Why are they stupid?
You, under no circumstance,
Prosecutors laid out just how deep this rabbit hole went. Extortion, violent threats, and even an armed robbery just to steal one of the custom-built shuffling machines. Out of 34 defendants in the poker case, 13 were directly tied to the Mafia. Names like Ernest Aiello, the Bonanno family's acting street boss, Louis Apak, a Gambino associate known as Flapper Poker A, and Matthew the wrestler Dino, linked to the Genovese family, all exposed in court documents. And the money trail? A total maze. Cash was laundered through fake shell companies, crypto wallets, and old-school handoffs in parking lots and private clubs. The whole thing was so complex it took 4 years for the FBI, Homeland Security, the NYPD, and even the Waterfront Commission to piece it all together. Now everyone's asking the question that's making the NBA squirm. How on earth did league insiders end up mixed in with organized scandal? Because this isn't just about gambling anymore. It's about the dark, dangerous intersection of fame, greed, and power. It's not as random as it sounds. These rigged poker games weren't happening in some shady basement. They were hosted in luxury hotspots like Manhattan, the Hamptons, Miami, and Las Vegas. The same glamorous circles where athletes, celebrities, and millionaires naturally mix. When someone whispers about a secret high-stakes poker night featuring NBA legends, that's an invite that's nearly impossible to turn down. But here's where it gets truly twisted. Some insiders believe that a few of the defendants might have started as victims before turning into participants. One gaming analyst explained it perfectly. Players always worry about getting cheated in private games. That's why pros stick to casinos or circles they trust. Meaning, a few people might have walked in thinking it was harmless fun and walked out blackmailed, threatened, or in massive debt. Still, prosecutors aren't buying that innocent victim story. They say too many of these guys knew exactly what was happening. According to federal documents, both Chauncey Billups and Jones are now facing wire fraud, money laundering, and illegal gambling charges. Each wire fraud count alone could carry up to 20 years in prison. The NBA didn't waste a second reacting. Billups and Rozier were immediately placed on administrative leave, and Commissioner Adam Silver dropped a stern public statement. The league takes these allegations with the utmost seriousness and reaffirms that the integrity of our game remains our top priority. But behind all that polished PR talk, a much darker question is echoing through the league offices. How did this go unnoticed for so long? Because remember, the NBA already investigated Rozier back in 2023 and cleared him. Now, that decision looks like a colossal embarrassment. One front office executive even admitted this could destroy fans' faith in the league's ability to police itself. And honestly, that's a fair point, because what's unfolding right now is massive. Federal agents have already warned that this is just the beginning. The scale of what's being uncovered is unlike anything sports has seen before. Here's how the feds say it played out: the FBI takedown of an NBA empire. This wasn't one messy scandal. It was two overlapping, sketchy operations working in sync. The first was the insider prop bet scheme, where private injury info was leaked for profit, turning locker room secrets into cash. The second was the high-stakes poker network backed by 4 of New York's most powerful mafia families: the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese clans. Together, they formed a web of greed, deceit, and betrayal that stretched from the NBA locker rooms to luxury penthouses filled with hidden cameras and rigged card tables. What started as whispers about friendly poker nights has now turned into one of the most explosive corruption cases in sports history. And according to investigators, this story's only getting started.
4 of the 5 families together in a single indictment is extraordinarily rare. It reflects how deep and how far this investigation reached and the skill and the persistence
The arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal. The fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
Yeah, you heard that right. The Mafia and NBA figures tangled together in 2025. At the official press conference, FBI Director Kash Patel laid it all out, describing the operation as something straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster, a coordinated takedown across 11 states. Dozens of suspects arrested, accused of everything from wire fraud and money laundering to extortion and armed robbery. This wasn't some backroom gambling hustle. This was organized scandal on a national scale. Federal prosecutors revealed that the rigged poker network alone drained over $7 million from wealthy victims, while the insider betting operation may have moved hundreds of millions in illegal wagers. They're calling it the biggest corruption scandal to ever hit professional basketball, and the craziest part? It's still growing. Every week, new names, new links, and new connections keep surfacing, shaking the NBA to its core. And now everyone's asking the same burning question: who are the big names caught in the crossfire? That's where things start getting messy. A few star players' names are reportedly floating around in sealed documents, but the one raising the most eyebrows right now is LeBron James. Not because he's accused of any wrongdoing, but because of who he's connected to. LeBron's longtime friend and former Cavaliers teammate Damon Jones has allegedly broken that brotherhood trust in the worst possible way. Jones, who's been seen around the Lakers organization in an informal coaching role and remains part of LeBron's trusted inner circle, is now officially linked to the FBI's investigation. That connection alone sent shockwaves across the entire league. Fans are stunned, struggling to process the idea that someone so close to LeBron could be caught up in something this corrupt. The internet's been on fire with theories. One viral post read, "If this happened in LeBron's circle, what else is still hidden behind those locker room doors?" That's the million-dollar question everyone's asking right now. According to the federal indictment, Damon Jones crossed a massive line. Prosecutors allege he sold private medical information about LeBron to a gambling ring on February 9th, 2023, just days after LeBron made history by breaking the NBA's all-time scoring record. That same week, during the Lakers versus Bucks matchup, investigators claim Jones texted his crew saying, "Player 3, identified as LeBron, would sit out with ankle soreness." That single leak, according to the FBI, triggered a wave of insider bets across multiple states. Bets that paid out big. What's even more shocking is that all of this might have happened without LeBron ever knowing his private info was being sold out by someone he trusted like family. The betrayal, the money, the mafia ties. It's a perfect storm that's shaking basketball's biggest name right to the edge of scandal. The information Damon Jones leaked wasn't even listed on the official injury report yet, but the gamblers moved fast. Within minutes, they started placing massive bets on Milwaukee long before the public had any clue. The Bucks ended up winning 115 to 106, and those insider bets paid out huge. But it didn't stop there. Far from it. In January 2024, Jones allegedly leaked another piece of confidential info, this time about a different Lakers player who'd be playing limited minutes because of an injury. One high roller dropped $100,000 betting against the Lakers, assuming it was an easy win. The irony? The Lakers actually won! The money was gone, but the scandal was crystal clear. Using inside medical info to manipulate bets crossed a serious legal line. And here's the part that matters most. LeBron James had absolutely no idea any of this was happening. Federal prosecutors made it clear that LeBron is being treated as a victim, not a suspect. His own close friend had exploited personal access to him, leaking his private health details behind his back for money. A total betrayal that shook even LeBron's toughest fans.
Technologies such as poker chip tray analyzers, which is a poker chip tray that secretly reads cards using a hidden camera. Special contact lenses or eyeglasses that could read pre-marked cards, and an X-ray table that could read cards face down.
But Jones wasn't the only one making headlines. The real storm hit when three major names were arrested: Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones. Their indictments stunned the entire sports world. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture. Chauncey Billups wasn't just playing poker, he was the face of the whole underground operation. They said he used his NBA fame to lure in wealthy victims, marks as they called them, convincing them they were sitting down for harmless celebrity poker nights. Once those high rollers were in, it was game over. The entire setup was a high-tech trap, rigged to perfection. The FBI revealed that those poker tables were fitted with X-ray sensors capable of reading cards lying face down, chip trays hiding cameras, and even shuffling machines modified to predict the next winning hand. And it gets crazier. The dealers themselves wore contact lenses that could see the invisible ink on the marked cards. Every move, every hand, every shuffle was part of a well-oiled con that had been running right under the NBA's nose. Prosecutors even hinted that Billups might have crossed an even deeper line. One unnamed co-conspirator, whose description perfectly matches Billups', allegedly leaked insider team info about the Portland Trail Blazers, intentionally tanking a March 2023 game against the Chicago Bulls. Over $100,000 was placed on Portland to lose, and sure enough, they got crushed 124-96. That game turned out to be the breaking point. The next morning, the NBA suspended Billups indefinitely, and assistant coach Tiago Splitter was rushed in as interim head coach. Later that same week, Billups surrendered himself at Portland federal court, handed over his passport, and was released under strict no-gambling conditions. The deeper investigators dig, the darker it gets. What started as a few suspicious bets has now revealed a sprawling, sketchy enterprise. A mix of fame, greed, and betrayal that rocked the very foundation of the league. It's wild, shocking, and tragic all at once. The NBA has faced scandals before, but never one that cuts this close to its heart. Chauncey Billups' arraignment is set for November 24th in Brooklyn, but right after that came another shocker. Terry Rozier, better known as Scary Terry. Except this time, the nickname hits way different. He was taken in Orlando facing federal investigation over alleged insider leaks and shady betting activity. According to reports, on March 23, 2023, just a day before that Blazers game, Rozier told his childhood friend Deniro Laster that he'd leave early with an injury. Laster's crew instantly dropped $250,000 on underbets tied to Rozier's stats. And sure enough, he checked out after only 9 minutes. 5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and those bets paid out huge. The NBA moved fast. Rozier was suspended the next morning. Prosecutors pushed for $10 million bail, but his lawyer used Rozier's $6 million Miami home as bond. Attorney Jim Trustee called the claims spectacularly unreliable and said Rozier never faked anything. Then comes Damon Jones, caught up in both the insider leak network and those high-stakes poker setups. Beyond his ties to LeBron and Anthony Davis, he allegedly helped pull in wealthy players and executives to games that weren't what they seemed. Some analysts keep calling this just a few bad actors, but fans and critics aren't buying it. They're asking how the NBA can keep signing billion-dollar betting deals while claiming the game's still pure. If these allegations hold up, the penalties could mean serious time away from the spotlight. And insiders warn that more names might surface soon. Some could still be active in the league. This isn't just another scandal. It's a full-blown test of trust for the NBA's image. Thanks for watching this breakdown. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. And I'll see you in the next one.